Hi, welcome back to a workshop covered in plastic sheeting. We all know what that means. Time to get some finish on this guitar body. So to finish this guitar, I'm just going to be using a nitro lacquer. This is by Dartford's. I've not actually used this one before, but I've used plenty of stuff very similar, so shouldn't be any issues with that. And as I've said, it's going to be a sunburst finish, and to achieve the colours, I'm going to use some of these spirit stains. I'll mainly be using these two. There's a rosewood and a yellow, which I've used in the past to mix up an amber colour quite successfully, and then I've got a range of other colours that I'll use when I'm going to put the sunburst colour together. I haven't really got a formula for mixing these up. I just tend to do it by eye, mix it until it looks good and then go with it. Now what you can do with this nitro lacquer is if you put it in a jar and leave it in the sunshine for a few months, it will naturally kind of yellow and take on an amber hue that's ideal for finishing guitars. I've got a couple of problems there. Firstly, I haven't got a couple of months because I need to get this done quite quickly. And secondly, I live in England and sunshine isn't really our thing. In terms of the process I'm going to go through, the first step will be to put down a couple of coats of clear lacquer and let those go off. That is purely to act as a sealer, and I'll knock that down with some 600 paper the following day just to get a decent surface to spray onto. The next step is I'll mix up some amber and I will lay that down on the top as kind of the background colour. Once that's gone off, I'll put another coat of clear on top of that, then mix up and do the sunburst, and then once that's finished I'll probably give the whole body 3, maybe 4 coats of clear just to build that final finish. I'm not going for like a really thick finish on this guitar, super high gloss. I want to give it a kind of a vintage look, so it will be shiny and it will be glossy, but it won't be that kind of high gloss that you would associate with a modern guitar. Right, let's get started. Okay, so I've let this dry overnight. It's looking really nice. Happy with it so far, but there are a few things I need to do to this before we move on to the next stage. First is if you run your fingers over this, you can feel some inconsistencies, and this is purely little bits of dust maybe, or bits of grain that have been raised and have formed little nibs in the finish. So first thing I'm going to do is just quickly run over it with some very fine wet and dry. It doesn't have to be much, and it's literally just knocking off those little nibs. And the next thing is I'm just going to take some small files, wrap them with a little bit of this fine wet and dry. And just use them to just clean up the inside of these F-holes. Again, that's just to take any little nibs off that are in there. If you don't do this at every stage, what happens is that those nibs will build up and get bigger and bigger, and you'll just get a really uneven and inconsistent finish. Okay, so that's done. That's all nice and smooth now. So the next stage before we get the background colour onto the top is we need to get all of the sides masked off. So I'm just mixing some of these stains into the lacquer. I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow. It pays to just really add a little bit at a time and build it up slowly. Just putting a little bit of the rosewood in now to give it that amber hue. Give it a good mix up. And that looks roughly what I want it to be. Okay, so this has had a couple of coats of the amber now, and it's taking on quite a nice colour, but I'm thinking it's a little bit too yellow, so I'm just going to add a little bit more brown into the mix and give it another coat, just blend it to get it to where I want it to be. Okay, so this has had 3 coats now. It's starting to look much closer to what I want. I'm going to give it one final coat of the amber and then we can start to think about putting the burst on it. Okay, so that's the last of the base coats dried off. I've given it a quick nib off with some 800 wet and dry, and now I'm just going to spray the burst on. There might be an argument for putting a coat of clear down on top of this, so in case the burst goes wrong I could just sand it off back to the clear. I'm not going to do that. I accept I might live to regret it, but there you go. Now in terms of how I'm going to do the burst, it's not going to be just a thin line all the way around the edge of the guitar. I much prefer to do what I refer to as a teardrop burst, and I think this guitar with the F-holes lends itself to that shape. You'll probably have a better idea of what I'm talking about once I've done it, but basically the burst I'm going to do is this whole up about area, and the horn will be the burst colour, and then there'll be a thin line all the way around the edge. Okay, so without much further ado, let's get it done. Okay, so that's the burst sprayed. It's looking a little bit patchy at the moment because some of it's still wet. But I'm really happy with that. That's broadly what I was looking for. I'm going to demask this and then leave it overnight to dry. In the morning, if it's not looking exactly how I want it, I can use some tinted lacquer just to touch it in, blend it a little bit better. But to be honest, I think it's looking good. I'm happy with that. Right, let's get it unmasked. Okay, so it's the next morning. This is nice and dry now, but it's still quite soft, which is ideal for scraping these bindings off. And to do that, I'm simply going to use a utility knife blade. So I'll bring you in closer and I'll just show you what the technique for this is. Okay, to scrape these bindings, all I'm simply going to do is pinch this blade between my thumb and forefinger in such a way that it's not protruding beyond the binding. And I'm just going to hold that position and start scraping. Now what I tend to do is in the initial strokes just angle it up slightly. So we're just scraping into the edge against the wood. Once I've started to establish that line, can flatten off and take the rest off. And once I've gone around the whole guitar, what I'll then do is just very gently sand this edge with something fine like 600 or 800 wet and dry, just to smooth it off a little bit so there isn't too much of a step for when we go in with the clear coats. So I'm just going to get set up on my shop stool and work my way around this. Okay, so that's the binding scraped off. I'm led to believe there's a team of mostly ladies in the Gibson USA factory who can run around the binding on something similar to this in about 5 minutes flat. Massive respect to those ladies. This has taken me an absolute age to do, but we're there, and I haven't dug into any of the areas that don't need uncovering, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do, just to finally clean it off and ready for its top coats, is to just run around the edge where I've scraped it with some 600 wet and dry paper and just try and blend that edge in a little bit. I don't want to go too far because I might rub through it, but I'm just going to blend it in so I don't have to put loads and loads of top coats on to get that smooth. Right, so this is at about 4 layers of top coat now. The edge around the binding has really blended in well. So I'm going to call that done for now. I'm going to leave it overnight to dry and just see what it looks like in the morning. If at that point I think it might need a bit more lacquer, I'll give it another couple of coats. But for now, I'm quite happy with it. Okay, so there we have it, the body finally in finish, and I have to say I'm very, very pleased with it. I'm particularly happy with the way that the figure shows through the finish. It's quite subtle, but that's the way I generally like things anyway, so yeah, happy with that. I don't think this is going to be my last video of the year, but it's definitely going to be my last one before Christmas, so I'll just take this opportunity to wish each and every one of you a happy Christmas. Enjoy it the best way that you can in the current crazy situation. I know here in England it's going to be quite difficult due to the current COVID restrictions, but you know, we are where we are. We've just got to make the most of it, I suppose. I suppose I just look back and think of all the situations in times gone past where people would look at what we enjoy, even in these worst of times, and think us to be very, very fortunate. So on that, I'm going to sign off, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.